What's your feeling on the general atmosphere around the negotiations now?
Well, it's quite tense as we go into extra time. This is a slow process. No one's panicking. It is a pretty complex set of negotiations compared to many other international talks. So we're pushing forward, but the really encouraging thing is we do have text out there being circulated that potentially allows all of the world's nations to begin a process that could result in a comprehensive agreement by 2015. Now, if we manage to get that through, that would be a really great achievement from these talks, and it remains to be seen whether or not we're going to get that. But I'm pretty optimistic, and that is absolutely what the UK team is heads down working for.
You mentioned 2015. That's something that's been mentioned. There's also the idea of the legal elements is that in there too. Are those two elements really crucial for the UK and the EU team?
Well, we need to get to a point. We're not going to get to it at this conference, but we need to get to a point within a meaningful sense of time that we're going to get the whole world on the same page. We're going to treat all the world's emissions with one. Now, obviously, we treat them in different ways. We fully accept the need for common but differentiated responsibilities. I mean, look at India. They emit only a quarter of the emissions per head of China, and a tenth of those of America. So that countries are in very different places. We fully accept that, and any agreement would reflect that. But it's important that we do work towards a place where we do have one comprehensive agreement that in itself is ambitious in rising to the challenge of climate change.
We've just been speaking to the Bolivian lead negotiator, who's a fiery individual, but he's very concerned that some countries are being a bit sketchy about their particular emissions targets. I know the EU are in a different case, but do you think that everyone's going to be coming on board at the end of today?
Well, I doubt that we're going to get to that level of detail. What we're looking here, I think, the important thing coming out of Durban must be the principle that we're all going to work by 2015, ideally, towards that comprehensive, ambitious agreement. And obviously, to get there, you would need to get to a much higher level of specificity.
Okay, and final couple of thoughts. Thoughts on the EU. There have been some rumours this morning that the EU being pushed back on a number of positions. Are you confident that your negotiating positions are going to be holding firm, and you're going to be continuing with the leadership that you and the UK have been showing throughout the negotiations?
Well, I think the UK, led by Chris Huhne, and the EU have together been a very strong force for progress in these talks. We really have driven the level of ambition, but we've been helped no end by the fact that we've managed to form a really strong coalition with many African nations, with the small island states and the most vulnerable, least developed countries. And I think they can speak with a degree of moral authority that the EU can't, because let's be clear, it is the poorest countries, particularly here in Africa, who are going to feel the impact of climate change soonest. They're going to feel it hardest, yet they've done the very least to contribute to it. And it is they, above anybody else, who really need an ambitious, comprehensive agreement as soon as possible, so we do avoid going above 2 degrees, and we do begin to turn this ship around before 2020.
Okay, final very quick question. What time is your flight booked for?
Well, it was booked for 11 o'clock. I'm clearly not getting that one. It's a bit of a rolling programme at the moment, but we're going to keep that one pretty much under review, but hopefully we'll get some progress this morning.